Hey everybody, welcome back to It's a Metal Thing. Today, Mustang gauges in a 61 Ford Falcon Gasser. Let's do it. All right, so this into this, right? So I'm gonna have to make some sort of metal bezel around here. The plastic sticks a little proud in a couple spots. I think for it to maybe snap into something or it does something. I don't know what that does, but I'll probably grind that off. So I need to figure out some way to get some metal around here and trim this out and be able to weld in here. I don't know if I'm gonna come across here or what the situation is, but first things first, I gotta get a ring around here. The only bad thing is this isn't round. So I got my giant dial calipers out. This works really good if you need a big measurement. So it was 5 3/8 vertically and 5 1/8 horizontally. So I think a 5 1/4 inch piece will work, and I'll just squish it a little bit. I went by the steel store. There was a piece of 5 1/4 OD, 1/8 inch DOM, a remnant there that I could cut some chunks off of. I might think about doing that, but what I'm going to try to do first, because I couldn't find any tubing go around the outside, I don't feel like looking or waiting. So I'll roll a piece of 1/8 inch flat and make it fit around the outside of these. And then I'll make another sleeve that goes inside there that covers this side, right? So the outside piece will cover this piece here and go all around the outside, make a nice clean edge. And I'll take another piece that fits just inside of there, right? Get it all fit happy, and then I'll weld the two together, ending up with like a 1/4 inch lip, but two different pieces, inside piece and outside piece. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna roll a piece of material. I don't even know what this is. This length here is, it's like about three, a little less than 3. So I'll probably roll a piece, maybe 4 inch. I don't know how far I want this to come up, but I don't want it to come too far out because I don't want it to sit way back in there, or I end up bringing it out here, the metal part out to here. So I'm not sure yet. So maybe I'll roll maybe a 5 inch piece, get them to fit on here, and notch out for this and have it sit completely flat on here. And then I'll work on the inner ring and maybe figure out the depth. So that's what I'm gonna do next. All right, so I have this piece of 1/8 inch sheet metal drop. It's 6 inches. There's another piece over there, it's like 8. I'm gonna cut that down to 6, which seems like a lot because the, this is only 2.5-ish. Not even, yeah, about 2.5. So this is 2.5. So 6 seems like a lot, but I'm thinking that the tube will end up like being notched up into here, right? Because the gauge itself is 5 3/8, right? So I'm gonna have to be all the way up to here or up into there to even keep this, above this body line here. So I'll probably be up around here somewhere. So I'll need that depth, right? Because you got all this depth here. I don't want these gauges being up this close. So 6 inches from there, it'll be back some, but you can always trim it down. So I'm gonna go ahead and roll these two. I'm gonna cut that down to 6 inches, start rolling them. So, it's pi, so 15, 16. So I'm gonna go like probably 15 or 16, maybe even 20. I'll go 20 because I gotta cut off the flat. There's always flat on the end of the roll. And so the way I get these tighter ones, I'll like roll it to where it starts to touch, and I'll cut a little. I'll roll it to more so it starts to touch and comes around, and eventually it gets, small enough. That's gonna be the tricky part, is getting that smaller radius on these rolls. That's pretty tight for this set here. So I'm gonna cut that and roll it and see how it comes out. All right, so getting that close is right around 6. I still need to go another 1/2 inch. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to mark the circumference that I need for the 5 1/2, which is 17 and basically almost 3/8, a little bit more than 1/4. So I'm gonna go 17 and maybe 1/2 on the circumference. I'll mark it and I'll cut it and roll it until it gets touching, hopefully. We'll see, getting close. All right, little pieces on the ground, cut up, make finally. Nice, 5 1/2. Worked out good. I'm just gonna leave them tacked for now. I'm not really sure the exact fit on these. I need to now notch this side of this tube to match this contour here. So I need to make a template come up, come down. I want it to ride on this surface here all the way around. I filed off this little plastic nub, and this is parallel. So I'm gonna get these sitting on here, making sure they fit right. First, I'm gonna tape these lenses up because I'm getting scratched up. So I'm gonna tape these up. I'm going to make a template and cut out the sides of these and have them just so they can sit on here. That's next. Okay, wrap this around, made a template, and then transferred it onto this tube here. I'm gonna cut that out, and hopefully I'm pretty close, and we'll get that set on there and see what it would look like. I'll do that next. Working on the notch, coming around. You can see that it's not, there's a gap, right? Down in here on each side. I need to work on the oval part, making it oval. So now I'm gonna take it down and put it in the press and smash it a little bit and see where I'm at. I don't wanna finish out this dimension here till I get it, you know, closer. Hopefully it'll fit. Okay, so I got it to fit. Fits okay, it's tight all along this plastic around the bottom edge, so that's good. I had to open it up a little bit to get the gap. I put it in the press, I beat it around, I had to manipulate it a little bit. The silver foil tape is a little deceiving because it's cut right to the clear plexi, and there's a piece of black plastic that is proud of that. So there's not as much room as you think. And then I cut this angle off a little bit. I'll probably come back and just like fill that, lay a couple beads in there and grind that flat rather than try to cut all this again. The depth is pretty good, and so it's the same as this one over here. So what I'm probably gonna do is I'm gonna get that one fit, I'm gonna get this fit. It's probably gonna shrink a little bit on me on when I weld it. I'll go slow and try to fill that in. I'll put it back with aluminum or something. Or maybe even, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but it's gonna shrink up a little bit. So if I gotta, I'll just work around and make it work. But once these two are done, these two tubes are on and I'm happy with them, I'm going to tie them together with a couple pieces of flat bar so that I can fit them in here. Because I'm not sure what I'm gonna have to do down here and above as far as where it lands in here and down here. So when I get those two tubes in there, I'll know whether I gotta like build some sort of weird bezel off of here, come off of this way a little bit, or what I gotta do to make that work. So one step at a time. So next, move on to that and then tack it together. Okay, so the rings are made. Took a little beating around and hammering around. I needed to gap it out a little bit. I made them too small. They ended up being a little shy, which is no big deal because I'm gonna line the inside. So I need to line the inside because there's like the black plastic sticks a little proud of the clear part itself. So there's like a weird shadow in there. Maybe if the silver tape wasn't on there, it would be as noticeable, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and line the inside with another piece once I get this cut and contoured. So now I'm gonna tack on a piece of 3-inch flat bar, 2 or 3 inch, just to keep it stable all directions. So I'll put one on this side and one on this side. I'm gonna keep it inside this radius here so it won't interfere with me cutting in here and doing this. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna cut some flat bar, tack it together, and then hold it up here and figure out what I'm gonna do and how I'm gonna do it. Another issue I'm gonna have too is figuring out the angle of that thing. The angle of the gauge, because the Falcon gauge is like flat on there. It doesn't really have any angle to it, but this is designed, I think, to have a little bit of an angle. Almost need to have the seat though to figure that out. So I might have to just make an educated guess. But anyway, so I'm gonna tack those together and fit them in the dash and see what I can do. Okay, tack together, solid unit. Now I just gotta get that into there. So I'm gonna measure this up, figure out my center here, make some lines, figure out what the center of these are, and slowly start cutting and getting that. It's almost gonna have to come all the way up to here to stay out of this. I don't wanna really get any radius down here. So I'm gonna have to move it all, get it all up to the top. Hopefully, golly, I don't know, hope this works. Jacking up the stash. Gotta make it work. All right, do it. Okay, so I was able to set it on the back I'll be able to take this piece of soapstone, long soapstone with this sharp edge on it, and then I can just run it along this here and get a good line. So it's all centered up. I'm gonna keep it just inside this body line here. There's a little bump out there where the old dash was connected. But so I'm gonna bypass all that. It's all centered up. So I'm just gonna go around here with this soapstone and get a good line, hopefully. So it should go a little easier than I thought. All right, that worked out pretty good, actually. So I don't have a body saw. Sure would help. I don't know. Maybe I might go get one. I still need to do some work on the firewall and stuff, so I'm gonna run to Harbor Freight and see if they have one. If not, I'll just cut it with the die grinder and a cutoff wheel and grind it in. So I'm gonna go do that now. So body saws are good. Chief, go Chief! Harbor Freight special, $29, and then 10 bucks for blades. But yeah, I made light work of it, man. Pretty good. So I'm just gonna fit this into this. Fit that into that. That's what I'm doing. All right, so I cut them in. They're way deeper than they're gonna be. This piece of metal, this return on this dash is contacting the gauge cluster. They need to come out. I want them to come almost all the way out. I'm looking for maybe like a 1/2 inch depth on this, or maybe 3/4 inch from the gauge to the end of this cluster. And I want it to die, up. I'm gonna have to put an angle on me. It's a pretty steep angle. The original dash was mounted, it was like a pod out here, and it was literally like vertical. It was square with the world. And you could see it because it was sticking out. But now he's got these crazy angles on these. I'm gonna have to angle this whole thing quite a bit. So I wanna bring this thing up to the edge now where I think it needs to be. I'm thinking maybe a 1/4 inch back on these back ones. If I could make that inside there be back a 1/4 inch from this lip, it'd be good, but I don't know if I can get away with that to get the angle. I mean, I'm gonna tilt them up quite a bit, so that means I have to do some more grinding in here. This is gonna be, I'm gonna put a piece of metal on the inside here, so this eventually will be a 1/4 inch. So if I can have this just edge match up with that and have a 1/4 inch reveal all the way around there, that'd be good. I'm not sure on this shape yet what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna follow this shape or something similar to that and just let that kind of, marry into, whatever curve I got in this thing. So these are in the way now. I want it to stay together. So I'm probably gonna do, I'll take a piece of tubing, I'll put it all the way up against these gauges here and tack it in, and I'll cut these out. Then I can maybe start remove a little bit of material so I can get a better idea of kind of where I'm at. So I'll probably do that next. I'm gonna put a piece of tubing in there, cut these out, and then I'll be able to move these in and out a little bit. Obviously I'm gonna start by cutting this back. I'll just, take a 1/2 inch off at a time or whatever, and just until I start to get them out. And then once we get them kind of where they need to be, then we can fine tune it. All right, I did a rough cut on these tubes here just to get an idea where I'm at. I took the silver tape off. The gauges itself, the face is actually tilted back a little bit. I don't know if you can tell, not much. I think I'm gonna go a little bit more. I'll probably go till I can bring this back. I don't know what I'm gonna do down here, if I'm gonna flesh this up or whatever. I can't, and now I gotta come up with a radius for these. I can't use this radius here because this has to be way back in here, and this is almost where it needs to be. I'll probably have like 3/4 of an inch here, maybe. And that's probably about where I'm at here on this. I could probably, when I rock it back a little more, I'll bring this up. I'll leave this kind of where it is, and I'll bring this out a little bit. So I'll have to figure out this radius, get it where it needs to be, and then make it fit. I mean, or at least get it close. So that's what I'm gonna do next. All right, so I ground it up a little bit, evened it up, smoothed it up. I'm probably gonna run it like that. I was thinking originally I was gonna try to bring these up and incorporate this and just start a blend here, but the shape of the dash is too different. It tapers down this way, so this would be a different, blend than this, so which would look weird. So now it's just kind of a floating situation. Like the original dash, it wasn't actually attached to this. It was floating off. So kind of the same thing if you want to stretch the imagination. Then what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna bring this piece down. So this comes down and I cut it. Let me change this. So I cut it so I can get this in here, but there's plenty of material for me to bend this out to this area here so I can have it come and die into this. Same thing here, I'm gonna cut this out, cut along this line, and I'm gonna roll a piece into here, similar to what's going on here. Another thing too is I'm not super happy, I'm not happy with the shape at all. So once it's in and it's where it needs to be, I'll work this, I'm gonna put quite a bit more arc in it. I just think it's too square and too cylindrical. So I'm gonna blend that in. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tack this on the bottom and I'm going to stick it in the car and see what it looks like. So I'm doing that next. All right, got the dash in. Happy with the way the AC looks. This needs to be angled back more. It's pretty square, straight up and down. I need to get some angle on that, especially when we're sitting up here and we've got this pretty big overhang. Just to get it to where it looks right, I need to get some more angle on it. I don't want to push this in too far again because I want to try to keep these floating. I'll probably pull this out a little bit, but I'm limited by the glass depth. I don't want to bring it all the way out. I'm going to keep this a little proud down here because when I make this transition, because this is flat here, but when I make this transition, it's a bigger arc up into there. It's just going to be a good place to do that transition. So I'm going to work on that top transition as well. Work on getting those kind of tidied up. I'm just concentrating on the angle first. I got to get that angle set before I do anything else. So I'm going to take it out and grind around on it and tweak around on it and try to get a more drastic angle. So I'm gonna do that next. All right, I'm pretty close on the angle there. I did a bunch of more grinding and I brought the bottom down a little bit more. I didn't really want to do that, but I'm still in the line there, so I'm all right. And I brought these up some more. This is cut off. I radiused this a little bit. So now what I'm gonna do is I got some 3/16 key stock. I'm gonna grind the galvanizing off and I'm going to tack it and heat it and bring it around for trim for this area here. So I'm gonna do both sides, tack those on, and then I'll run a piece across for this, and that'll be the trim for the piece that's gonna come down from the top, and the piece is gonna come down from the bottom that'll hide this little raised clear plastic piece. So we'll do that next. All right, trim is made. These can run wild, you won't see them. The metal's gonna come and die into here. I'm gonna try to get it right on this edge or maybe a little bit past. So I'm gonna have this like little reveal, right? So I want the metal to come down and have this like little step. At least that's the plan. I'm not really sure how it's gonna go coming in this way on the top one. But anyway, we'll figure that out. So this fits good. It's gonna work good for that little instrument cluster there, whatever's going on there. So I'm gonna bring it around and stick it in here and give it full tweak and tack it in and check it out one more time. See how it looks. Hopefully it's better. I'm pretty much out of room. The problem, when you start getting into these steep angles is you got to grind a lot of material this way, forward to get any altitude. So it starts getting into weird spots. So I really don't want to go down anymore on the bottom. So I'm hoping, I think I got it. So I'm going to tack it in pretty good on the inside this time and see where it's at. And then if it's good, I got to cut that piece of tubing out that I welded in like a crazy man. So anyway, yeah, put it in there and tack it in and see where we're at. So it's close, man, really close. Not 100% yet. I'm not fully convinced. Looks all right. I mean, when I grind those bezels more, it'll look better. It does have it has some angle to it. Could use a little more. So the only thing that's really bugging me, honestly, is that screen between the two. It's at such a weird angle, but I'm never gonna get that angle. You can't really see because of the metal tape. So I did a little beating last time. I kind of beat this up in here a little bit, and I'll probably do that again and try to get a little more love, but I think it's gonna be close. I'll do a little more tapping, just try to get a little more love. Maybe bring the bottom out a little more. I'm getting kind of low on that gauge down there, and I don't want to really get into that body line, and getting close to the switches and whatever. So I'm already gonna have to trim. There's mounting tabs on the bottom of the plastic for the gauges, and I'm gonna have to cut those off and figure out another way to mount it. But yeah, getting close, real close. A little more tippy tappy, and then I'm gonna call it. So What's next? Okay, so this is where it's gonna live. I got it as tight up here as I could. A little bit of a gap here just because of the shape of the dash itself. I brought this out, you know, as far as I dare. I'm about a 1/4 inch from the lens to this surface here. So I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this tube out. I'm gonna take this thing out and cut along this line here, along this body line. I'm gonna come into here. This actually ended up pretty damn good. I mean, literally, I can push this side back a little bit and get it right. And then from the inside, I'll push it in a little bit, but it's right there. So I just gotta put a couple tacks across there. And then build this piece into here, which is gonna be a whole lot less radius than I thought. I anticipated a bigger radius, but it'll just kind of curve in and die into this edge here. So I'm gonna do that next. All right, I cut the tube out, got it cleaned up. Now I rough cut this piece of 16 gauge co-roll that I had left over from that other chunk. I just put a rough cut on it. So I'm going to put a roll in it now, get the bend in it, because that's going to change this radius. If I just scribed to this and it was straight, I think put a curve in it, it's going to change how the radius goes. So you want to get the curve first, and then you can slowly work it and get it where you want it. So I'm going to get a piece of tube or something and beat this around a little bit and put a curve in it and then fit it. Okay, so kind of like that. Got a nice fit on here. This is butting up against here. When I weld this, I'm just gonna weld the back, put a couple strip welds in here, because if I weld this, I'll never be able to get this crisp edge back, especially in these tight corners. So I'll just do a couple strip welds back here. All up here, I'll weld this solid and blend it in, and I'll make this little transition a little bit better. So next, I need to do a tube. I got a piece of, talked about it earlier in a video, I got a piece of 5 1/4 OD tube that should fit inside here. And I'm gonna make a transition, or a ring around here for the bezel for the gauge. So I'm gonna do that, weld this in, and then get that done. All right, all welded up, ground out good. Tack welds in here, good to go. A little bit of blending here and there, but no big deal. This is that 5 1/4 tube I was telling you about. I put it in the vise and I smashed it so it would fit in here. Got the oval shape. So that's gonna go in here. A little bit of a gap, but that's not that big of a deal. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to grind the bottom of this, or cut the bottom of this to match it. So I'll make a template off of this, get this curvature here, transfer it to the bottom here, put the gauges back in. First after I get these to fit these, I'm gonna make sure they fit square and plumb. I'll come back and I'll finish out this edge how I want it to be, change the shape. I want it to curve in and be in a lot farther than this, so there'll be quite a bit of material taken off of these. Set those in with the gauge in place. I'll scribe this line, I'll grind this to match this, then I'll set it down in there. I'll get the distance equal all the way around. I'll weld it all the way around, grind it smooth, and it'll look like a 1/4 inch thick, which it will be, 1/4 inch thick piece, but it'll have that little lip on there to hide the plexiglass plastic difference. So that's next. Okay, both inner trim pieces are fit now. The second one obviously went a lot faster with that template. So now I'm going to pop the gauges out and make the shape these. So I want to come down maybe a 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch off of this. And then it's just going to be a matter of shaping that to get something that I like, you know, because the inside plastic, this out here, you know, the way they're going to interact, if I paint those white, it's really going to be noticeable. I'm thinking I might have to paint those black inside there, just because of the shape, you know. I don't know. This is going to be the trickiest part about this whole thing, is getting this shape right, because you could totally jack it up. I mean, you could go with this shape here. I mean, there's just so many different ways to go. So I'm going to do that next. All right, going with that. I mean, it's just whatever it's going to be, right? So now I'm going to take these, put them in here, mark them, cut them. They're going to be some crazy weird shape. I think I'm going to go ahead, instead of trying to gap them, I'm going to put a slice in it. Put a slice in the top up here. because it's the shortest weld and it'd be less likely to see. And then I'll just clamp it all the way around and get it tight that way. And there'll be a little bit of a gap that I have to weld, but I think it's gonna be best because, you know, it wants to touch in some spots and it doesn't want to touch in other spots. And if I do that, you know, it has to be consistent thickness all the way around. So if I just clamp it, fill the gap, I'll be a lot better off. I think it'll be a better product. Okay, pieces are fit. I'm not gonna cut them. Since the material, it's so thin now, it's just a weird shape, that I could knock it around and manipulate it and get the gap even, which I've done. I'm gonna put a big chamfer on the inside of this edge here and same over here. Tack them in, pull the gauges out and weld them up, grind them, and then dang man, pretty close, pretty close. I might run to the auto paint store and get some white primer and see what it looks like. Maybe, we'll see. I'm gonna get these done today. Fully welded. So yeah, it looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. I'm gonna let it cool. While I let it cool, I'm gonna run and get some, see if I can get some white primer. I'm gonna blast this thing eventually, but I just wanna see what it's gonna look like. I'm using primer because the inside's gonna be like a matte finish or eggshell white. So I wanted to see what it looks like. I'll pull the vents out of these last two and just put a quickie white paint job on it and see what it looks like. So, all right, sanded up, ground up, smoothed up. That's it. That's what it's going to be, for better or for worse. So I'm going to shoot some primer on it, put the heat on it, and put the gauges in it. See what it looks like. I don't know what those gauges look like against the white trim. Put the air conditioning vents back in and see if I can get it in the car if that primer dries quick enough. It's Friday, it's 4:30, I got time. Okay, I don't know, man, I'm not feeling this white. It's just too much, especially around those gauges. I mean, I could possibly paint the bezels around there. I don't know though, it's just too much. I am going to do carbon fiber door panels and stuff, get carbon sheet, cut up some panels for the inside. So I could go with a dark gray. I'm gonna go matte finish on the inside, so I'm not doing matte black. That's not happening. So I might go with a dark gray, because I'm doing a whole bunch of different stuff on the interior, but yeah, I'm gonna stick it in the car and get an idea what those gauges look like in the car. As far as the angle and stuff goes, it doesn't really matter at this point, because it is what it is. So I'm gonna stick this thing in, take a look. All right, put the dash in. Much too white, much too much bezel, on there. I'm gonna grind those way back. I'm probably gonna radius the front, give it a rounder look. That's too square, too modern. Obviously the gauges are modern, but I'm feeling like if I cut those back, give it a little bit more arc, a lot more arc, and get it real close on the bottom here, and just radius that front edge, soften it up so it kind of goes along with the rest of the dash. I think it'll be a little more in tune with the style of the dash. So I'll do that next. Okay, the Wimbledon white is way better, way better. So I'm not hating that. So yeah, these turned out all right. I think these are gonna work. Put them in and see. But I like how it's got that radius edge. Kind of works better with the older style. I sucked it way back. I probably took like 3/8 out of here and maybe 1/4 out of here. So stick it in and see what it looks like. All right, way better, way better. That Wimbledon white, that's the way to go. That stuff was way too white. No bueno. I like the gauges, I like them better. I could go a little more on the side. I can't really go any more on the bottom. I don't wanna like have that too close. When I go to finalize everything, I might just take a little more out of the center curve. But yeah, the vents look good. Everything's good, man. I'm happy, super happy. So, yeah, I think the Wimbledon white's gonna be the way to go. But so I'll probably take some more out here. I think the angle of the gauges will be all right. When I go to finish this off, this is like a weird body line that was in here that I cut kind of left here. I'll probably come back and beat that in, tap that in. There's still a bunch of material in there where it kind of goes back in. It's kind of got this weird dog leg on the inside. I could trim that back and tap that down and get that tighter on both sides. It has the same body line on both sides. But yeah, happy. AC vents turned out good. The dash is good. Maybe a little bit more tweaking, just a tad more radius on there, just to make it not so, you know, big, to dainty it up a little bit. So yeah, I think that's gonna be it for this video. So I was looking at some analytics, and only like 9% of the people that are watching my videos are subscribers. So if you're a repeat offender, go ahead and subscribe. You wanna stay tuned, because I'm gonna take that box down and get the engine out and set it in here. That's gonna be next. And then also to get the fuel tank out so I can get the fuel pump and the sending unit and all that. I'm gonna build a fuel tank incorporating the fuel pump. And I'm gonna try to use the pedal. I'm gonna use as much. They sent me all the stuff. I'm gonna use all the stuff. They even come up with a drive line. It'd be amazing if the drive line just went right in, right? Because it's 8.8, got the same, everything's the same. It'd be, how awesome would that be? So anyway, if you like the video, like I said, like the video. If I didn't say it already, subscribe and check me out on Instagram, and It's a Metal Thing, and I'll catch you on the next one.